This podcast is sponsored by Skylight Calendar. Do you wish your family life could be a little more organized and a lot less hectic? Now there's an easy way to make it happen, the Skylight Calendar. The Skylight Calendar is an innovative, smart, all-in-one touchscreen calendar that automatically syncs up existing calendars your family uses. Everyone's upcoming events are automatically organized and displayed for the family to see in big, easy-to-read, color-coded time blocks. And with Skylight Calendar, you can assign household chores to your kids, keep grocery lists, plan dinners, and much more. And Skylight's mobile app keeps your family up to date on the go, anywhere, anytime. Managing a busy household just got a little bit easier with the Skylight Calendar. Now get $15 off your Skylight Calendar when you go to skylightcal.com/family. Go to skylightcal.com/family for $15 off. That's skylightccal.com/family.
At Grainger, we're for the ones who specialize in saving the day and for the ones who've mastered the art of keeping business moving. We offer industrial-grade supplies for every industry with same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders, all backed by real people ready to help. So you can get the right answers and products right when you need them. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
A choice right now, between fear and love. It's just a rock.
Out of the dark night of ignorance and into the shining light of truth.
Expanding reality.
A population of citizens capable of critical thinking.
We don't see things as they are, we see them as we are.
There's a level of reality where everything dissolves into an ocean of energy.
We empower our experience by insisting on our authenticity.
That's very profound. Very.
Expanding reality.
Welcome to Expanding Reality. I am your host, Brandon Thomas. On this incredibly cool episode, guys, Human Vibration comes by to hang out to have just a truly incredible conversation. Now, if you've heard of Human Vibration before, you're welcome. This is an incredibly cool conversation, and you're going to absolutely love it. If you have not, you're also welcome for introducing you to this incredibly fascinating young woman. So Realize Radio and all of the ways to find her, guys, are going to be located down in the show notes. Make sure that y'all check that out. While you're down there as well, check out expandingrealitypodcast.com. That's where links to all the socials go. We're making a lot of changes over there. Also, that's the place that you can sign up to become an expansive insider and participate in value exchange with us. That's where all the bonus stuff can be found. And value exchange is what we're all about here. It's a value for value model. So if you find this enjoyable in the least bit, contribute what you can. There is a link that reads support the mission down in the show notes. You guys take advantage of that, and thank you all for being a participatory member of the expansion of consciousness. All right, guys, so check also the t-shirts. Almost forgot. Damn, that was close. Check the t-shirts down there. We have Lizard Turds and then also the Thought Ninja. Definitely check those out down in the show notes. New shirts are a lot of fun. And let's get to the episode here with Human Vibration.
I like to say synchronicities, syncs or winks from this matrix, from this realm.
Yeah.
You know, it's just kind of a notification, a direct notification that you are speaking the language and understanding the language of the matrix and communicating with whatever it is, making it, I like to say, we render as we go. And what I mean by that is we are influencing this realm far more than it is influencing us. Maybe in totality, in 100%, maybe we are 100% the ones making everything go before us. We just don't really understand what reality is fundamentally. But if we're just going to take the very basic of like the life that we live is real, we were just talking about it. You're my neighbor, essentially, we're both Texas, we're both right around the corner, and that's real. I can get in my car. I could drive out, a couple miles down the road and I could maybe be in the same space, and that's real, and friends and life. But if you were to really granularly step back and be an observer outside of this realm, if that's possible, I do think that this bodily experience, you'd realize from the outside that this bodily experience feels very individual. It feels like it's me over here, and it feels like it's you over there. And even if we're in the same space, it still kind of feels like, well, I'm still me and you're still you and we're still separate. But I think if we were able to take one further step back, just a dimension out, we would see that we are just weirdly interconnected, that we are essentially all like the same thing somehow, being expressed individually, but ultimately the same thing. And I think that's what, and then there's like clusters of us. I think like we're all pieces of the puzzle and we kind of cluster and we connect these pieces of the puzzle and the puzzle gets more clear and clear and clear. But I think that we were just talking about too before we started recording, but I've been fascinating with Plato's Cave recently. It kind of fell out of the clear blue sky. It's been one of my fascinations for a long time, really since I started this whole thing in 2020. But I picked it out of the aether just, last week, and then have been kind of like plucking away on it. And then independently, you recorded something that hasn't even been released yet. That was all, covering on the same topics. We both kind of in the very same time frame and came to these same fascination with the same concept. It really, Plato's Cave, there's really nothing better as far as allegories go of this world. So kudos to everyone who's looking into Plato's Cave, applying that parable to modern day life, essentially chained 180 degrees in the wrong direction, where we are looking and moving in the wrong direction as far as humanity goes. That's a bigger concept. What was the question? I'm off to the races. That's my style. So, well, thank you for having me on. I don't know if we've even started yet, but I'll just go forever.
Let's get it going here then. I actually had a question to start this thing with you. So do you have a war cry queued up that you could kick off for us to kick it off then?
My favorite thing to say and to express is, once you see, you can never unsee. Once you see, you can never unsee. Just like once you learn how to read a given language, you can never unlearn. You can never look at a collection of letters. If I learn English, I can never look at a book in English and not immediately just read it. I can't, unless I have a traumatic brain injury, unless something really scrambles the old noggin. And I kind of wonder where our intelligence is and our memory is. Is it? I kind of think it might be like an aether, like around us, and our brain's just kind of like the radio. So the radio can get damaged and play the frequency wrong, but I don't really know if we house things in our brain in the way that we think. I don't know if our brain works. I don't think, question everything is also kind of or you can kind of boil that down to everything is fake, which I think is such a bastardization of the exploration and the spirit of how I look into things. But I do like to start with the framework of, just because we've been taught and told something doesn't mean it's real. And just because we've been told it's valuable and important doesn't mean it is. And just because we've been told it's not valuable and not important certainly doesn't mean that either. I am a radical thinker. I'm a radical seer and a radical thinker, and all I want to do is share. I feel like when I started expressing and seeing this world in this way, and then sharing my lens. All it was really doing was sharing my lens. It's like, guys, we don't need any new information. We don't need any new details. We don't need any new anything. We just need a new lens, a new vantage point, a new framework in which to view everything we've already been given, everything that already is here, all the information we've already been supplied, all the little breadcrumbs that are already there. We just need a new way of seeing everything. And then it kind of becomes, once you have a new lens through which to see, everywhere you look, it's like, oh, that looks different. It's just like listening to a song, your favorite song from way back when, and then you listen to it a decade later and listen to the lyrics, and you're like, oh my gosh, this song.
This song's about sucking dick. A lot of those came out from the 90s. Have you noticed this?
Those are all about sucking dick.
A lot of them were about sucking dick. And your mom was just singing them on their way to...
They are not that subtle either. No, but now looking back...
Well, on your way to church, your mom was just singing the shit out of these things. And you were too, little back there with your little dress, I assume. And you're back there just singing the shit out of these Salt and Peppa and all of those type songs that now we have come to find out, pun intended, that they're about sucking dick.
They were quite blunt too. Listening back, it's like, oh,
There
what?
it is.
How did I not? How did I not hear that? And you really don't. You really actually don't. But once you hear, you can never unhear. Right. But until you do, you just don't hear it. Until you can see it, you just don't see it. I sure had to think with purples. And magenta, the new color of the year, 2023 color of the year for Pantone, the arbiter of color. But magenta is the center node of what we understand as purple. Anyway, but I had this whole thing on purples, and I started seeing it everywhere and sharing it all the time. And then people would be like, "This is crazy. I don't even know what you're talking about. Will you please stop it with the purples? Whatever." So annoying. And then like a week later or a month later, they'd come back in my DMs and be like, "What did you do? You turned on purple. Why is everything purple?" And I was like, "I didn't do it. I did not do it. I just allowed you to see what's always been there." Just like when you go back and look at these, I love to look back at the Zapruder film, like the JFK stuff. That stuff looks so fake. And we're like, how'd he do that? How'd the bullet do that? Magical bullet, bing, boom, boom. And it's like, guys, the story doesn't make sense because the whole thing is fake. Like none of it happened. It's all a movie, essentially. Like Q, we're watching a movie. We are. It's all just fictional material, fabricated material, and we're just all picking it apart and trying to get to the bottom of it, but thinking we're onto something because this thing doesn't make sense, and we're like, let's make it make sense, and it'll never make sense until we just crack it open entirely and go, oh, it's empty. Oh, okay, got it. That's why it didn't make sense. It's empty.
Yeah, I agree with you. I've been doing this intro scalation. I've been scaling introvertly with my mind, and I've done this whole thought ninja thing. It's been a fascinating journey, and it's just really welcoming to the show, Human Vibration. Thank you so much, by the way, for being here.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
All the ways to find you, of course, link down in the show notes, guys. Easily one of my favorites, needs no introduction other than the one you just got, and thank you so much for joining us. So it's this within action, and I find that the more things out there are just yelling at for your attention, and so like you probably invest in this idea as well, that your investment in attention is really your only currency here. It's what are you focused on, and those little whirlpools. Oh my God, your dog is adorable. Those little whirlpools that you can get caught in along the side of the river of life. Wherever you focus your attention too long, your boat will steer that way. Just talked to Ksenia Moore on the show about this, and then you get sucked in this whirlpool, and all it was because you focused on it for a little too long. You know what I mean? If you just give it a glance and then correct course real quick, you're still in the flow. You're like, oh, okay, that's over there. And then, probably to the point you and I are at with this, where it's just entertaining. I haven't considered myself a conspiracy theorist in years. I'm a conspiracy analyst, as Charlie Robinson would put it, right? And I enjoy checking it out and finding all the little breadcrumbs. And you and my Maria, you guys are just crushing it at this. And so I've really enjoyed engaging in this aspect of it because it keeps it on the periphery. It's not something that's in my focus. I really don't give a shit about it. I think it's interesting, and I do believe at a level it facilitates an expansion of consciousness for those at that reading level, right? If you want to look at it energetically like that. Right. What do you think is going on with that, about your attention being so valuable here? And this is where we talk about Loosh and that idea.
Oh yeah, this is one of my favorite topics because ultimately I think it comes down to this. It's the why. Why trick us? Why make these things up? Why fake this? Why fake that? Why make people up? I get that all the time. Like, what's the why? What's the why? Like, we get it. You're saying everything is like, question everything, but why? Yeah. I truly believe that our human focus, energy, and attention is the most precious resource on the planet.
Boom pow. Fucking
Period.
Boom pow. I'm telling you, that is absolutely how I feel about it as well. Now, how are you currently at that conclusion? Because, this is, I've evolved into this like you have as well. Now, it's been one of the more prevailing ideas. And whenever I looked at it like this, it closed a lot of open tabs for me mentally on connecting dots of whys, right? Yeah. And I just go, oh, okay, it funnels to this idea of it just being an energetic loosh. It's just a fuckload of billboards everywhere that are presenting themselves as reality to you. They're just options for your attention. And so it's this interesting thing that whenever you get to that point, so I'd like to ask you, like, how did you get there? What was it like when you go, and you realize that probably where we're at? Well,
it really all came to me in a burst at once. It all just came at once. It was one of, I got a download. Yeah. It was in January of 2020. It's really when Human Vibration started. The origin of Human Vibration was basically a lifelong fascination with John Benet Ramsey. I invite anybody and everybody to check out the pinned tweet on my Twitter profile at Human Vibration. that's if you're at all interested, that's where you can start. But it was a case that fascinated. It was an unsolved case that had fascinated me, dogged me for a long time. I love conspiracies, always have, and that was mine. Like that, and I would revisit it from time to time. I was down every rabbit hole that you could be down. It had begun to, the rabbit holes that I had been down for decades had begun to weirdly map together with the rabbit holes that I was currently down and later in life with the 2017 to 2019 kind of QAnon. I don't know if anybody in your audience was ever down that rabbit hole, but I was. That was kind of how I kind of, I like to say there's a trap door at the bottom of the ocean that leads to the top of the sky. Like sometimes you have to dig right through the solid rock, and you'll find something magical at the top. But okay, so through this, I was just fascinated with this case, and then in 2020, pretty much out of nowhere, I revisited the case with what I didn't know but it was fresh eyes. I had fresh eyes because I had been very fascinated through my job. I had been fascinated with 3D work and digital entities and GAN technology and just 3D animation, all sorts of just all the things that could go on. And this person that does not exist.com, I had seen that in like 2018, 2019, and it was, if you haven't heard of it, just go thispersondoesnotexist.com. It'll just give you a face. The face looks pretty good. It looks like a real face like you would see on Facebook, but it's not real. None of the faces are real. And I can see that immediately now because I've trained my brain. My brain is just attuned to this, but at first you couldn't tell, but that was the trick. I was like, whoa, that's so cool. None of these are real. Like, ooh, that's spooky, but I'd kind of trained my brain on this. And then on January of 2020, I went back to my favorite thing to do, which was doing the John Benet Ramsey, looking back at it. And all of a sudden, my fascination just took this weird twist because I looked at her face and I was like, this doesn't seem right. Like, this kind of looks like one of those faces, like this little girl that I've been tortured by, like this perfect little doll that I've been trying to get to the bottom of with this gruesome murder, and I was like, if only we can just figure it out, unsolved, I was like, let's figure it out. Let's, the brother did it, the parents did it, the Santa did it, all these things. And then I just realized all of a sudden, I was like, oh, she looks fake. Oh my God. And that just kind of created this fissure in my brain. It just exploded. Not just crack, but just an absolute mind explosion. And I was like, oh no. I was like, but I got the why. Like right away. I got the why. I was like, oh, like, why would they do this? Oh my God, this, like, why? And I was like, oh, because I've been fascinated with this for decades. Why would they fake it? Because I gave them decades. I gave this decades of my energy. Gosh, that was a good trap. Bravo. Well done. You got decades out of me, I was like, and I got it. And I was already familiar with the work of Dr. Robert Monroe. He's the pioneer of loosh, the idea of loosh. He kind of goes into some like space stuff and astral travel that, that's his story. I mean, that's all part of that's part. He's a well-renowned thinker and philosopher and kind of like almost like a physician of the world, like a physics professor of the world, because he really sees how the real energy of the world operates. And he categorized the total and totality of human energy as loosh, as like a loosh energy. There's just a word for it. If you were to be on the outside again, looking at all the human activity, all the human energy, all of our sorrow and pain and tragedy and love and joy and all these things and all these highs and the lows, and you're able to measure the collective energy, heartbeat of every single human being, and all of our collective energy. That has to have a measurable quantity, and he deemed it loosh. So I was kind of familiar with that too, and so like I kind of got it. I was like, oh, it's about our energy. And oh, there's this precious thing called loosh. And it just kind of like all came together. All the things, all these weird tunnels and rabbit holes that I'd been down my whole questioning life. And I had been to a lot of conspiracies. I love conspiracies, but I'm with you. Conspiracy analyst is a great way to put it. I haven't heard that and I love it.
Charlie Robinson, macroaggressions.
Okay.
Yep.
Charlie Robinson. I'm writing that down.
There's like a cognitive delineation with it, and that's what I like about it, because I've been doing NLP quite a bit, the neuro linguistic programming, and really rewiring my neurons. And again, that's what the Thought Ninja has to do with. But this idea that deliberate speak, and so this is what I mean when I say that. So yeah. I do have a question for you that's very important to me before we move on here. Now, toilet paper. Okay, is it going to be over or behind the wall like a psycho? What do you prefer?
I always do it over. I like to get it coming over.
Okay.
I don't want to be tugging from.
Yeah.
I want to let this thing called gravity, and major air quotes. I'll let it do its. The jury's still out on exactly what it is. I think it's more of a density buoyancy thing, but I'll let it do its work. Why do the under? The under, more resistance, more effort on the part of the user. It's just rude.
I think it's an indicator of an NPC as well. It may be. We can't rule it out. So speaking of that, what do you think this place is? Because we talk a lot, and I love the fact that you are convinced that your intuition to investigate JonBenet actually was being fed by your own obsession with JonBenet by the system here. What do you see this system as? Do you think that it's perhaps completely synthetic, or do you think that there's an organic component to where some of Dr. Monroe's ideas of this out-of-body experience, or this idea that this being or this thing that we're sitting here speaking with is just more of a vehicle that's inhabited by more of an entity itself, and that we're just kind of like that badass yellow thing at the end of Alien that Ripley drives, you know what I mean? And perhaps we're Ripley on the other side and not this, mech bot to battle aliens here.
I love that. I do think we're just vessels. I think that this bodily experience feels very real and very corporal, like this skin suit that we're in. I mean, we're in here. There's something in us individually, but it would exist without the body. It can't exist without the body. It does exist without the body. This is just one. I think we're here in this realm. I like to call it a realm.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm with you.
Matrix just has too many Hollywood connotations. Like, we just can't say the word Matrix without thinking about the movie.
Well, what I like about the word Matrix is it's an easy framework for people to work off of that perhaps aren't into this idea as much or haven't followed it as far as you and I have. It's a gateway drug into the idea because it's so relatable. You can say, oh, remember this scene here? Well, that can apply to this. And I talk about this all the time with the system, like the lizard turds, these Klaus Schwabs and shit, that perhaps if this is sort of a more organic type deal, lizard turds, guys, check the show notes for the t-shirt. We got new t-shirts, lizard turds out. Check them out. It's super dope. I'll bring you one actually, because we just live down the road. Okay, so it's this idea that these things that we don't prefer here, these monsters that we obviously know are in our face all the time, it's kind of the juxtapose or this like villain in the play of the actor and the villain, and it creates this dissonance for us to enjoy as a participant and observe and learn from and interact with and engage with and all of these things. And so to take it to that level, you really then kind of look at the lizard turds here as just facilitating the expansion of consciousness. And so the less negative attention you kind of pay it, in my mind, is the less it affects you. But people need to be scared. Like Sam Tripoli says, one of my favorite damn analogies about the experience of this place, or what it's like as far as what kind of danger you're actually in, it's like a fucking haunted house. It's this idea that
I like that one too.
I love that because it makes so much sense. It's like, oh, we're going to give you a shot if you don't do something. And you're like, it's a haunted house. I paid to be here. And that's the other thing, is it's like at a level you want to be here, right? Because in that analogy scaled up, it's something you drove to, you got friends together, like you made a deliberate attempt to go experience this thing, sort of like we are here. And kind of how I see these vehicles as well, it's like a submarine. We can't go to the Marianas Trench, if it is even a real fucking thing. But if we get in a submarine, we can be in that environment and still be able to take in the scene, as it were. And so just like our vehicle here, energetically, whatever that is, we have to dial it down so goddamn much that we need these submarine vehicle bodies to interact here, because that's how it works, It's just a fucking awesome game.
Right. I know, and we can only go, I love that you said that, we can only go so far up or down or with our own individual vessels, and I think that that's like the ultimate trick. We just have the perfectly sized prison.
Yeah, and you got temperature extremes as well. So there are physical boundaries and limitations for us here physically, as far as what our avatar can withstand. As far as just even they're like, yeah, you can go walk across that ice shelf, go for it. And it's early man with nothing, let's say, just this idea. And so there are physical boundaries here. Maybe spaces underwater, and I love this idea that it's all like a totally different realm down there, but it's so uninhabitable for us. And scary as fuck, right?
Have you seen those underwater lakes?
There's one in the Gulf of fucking Mexico. The dude that discovered that, and his submarine goes down.
That still blows my mind. I
know. Just for the audience here, there's a guy, I don't know the name, but I've got it right here. He goes down in the Gulf of Mexico, right down the road from us here, the toilet of the ocean. And he finds this lake, and that ripples, and he bounces the submarine off of it, and it bounces because it's so dense. And they speculated some, collection of salt and all that kind of shit. Maybe. I think it's a fucking portal, and you've got to be at an energetic resonance to go through the motherfucker. Now, that dude mysteriously died in a helicopter crash, I believe, not too long after revealing this whole submarine thing. And he was pumped about it. He was like, man, this is crazy. Yeah. And there's a whole story about it. It's wild.
That did seem quite wild.
So what do you think? Portal or what?
I do believe in the idea of portals. If this is an energetic realm, I think we're energetic beings in an energetic realm. And I think that there's lots of ways to transport around this place, but they just tell us we can do it with roads. Yeah. Roads and cars. I'm sorry, that's all we have. Oh, you want to fly? Okay, well, you're going to have to go to the airport. You're going to have to go, you're going to get in this terminal. I feel like, and you can only go on these flight paths that actually are so nonsensical we don't even need to go into. I think the shape is just to keep us, it doesn't really matter. If we're just in a realm, it doesn't matter what the actual shape is. It's unknowable. It doesn't really have a shape. The shape argument is a psyop in and of itself because it pits us on two sides. It can only be round or it can only be flat. And then there's diaspora of donut or eggplant shaped or donut or crevice or crater. And it's just there's so many different ways. I do love how all the conspiracies seem to be a very polarizing 0-1, binary the flat earth, flat V globe or flat V ball or okay, but the portals, maybe I just see it as maybe dimensions. Did you ever watch The Simpsons? Did you ever see when Homer would some of the Halloween episodes, he would stick his finger on the wall and then he would enter into this almost plane projection, dimension world. I don't know. I mean, maybe that's more of like you said, you have to be at the right resonance, the right vibration, the right, maybe everything is really happening here. Yeah. We're just on a certain vibration. So our here is 100% expressed by our vibration. Yeah.
It sounds awesome to me. It sounds like this idea of consensus reality is something I've discussed quite a bit, and I wanted to get your take on this, actually. Okay, whenever we talk about the idea that people argue here, and yes, that's a whirlpool that you can get caught in, defending your idea that you're not super sure about, that maybe even adopted from your family, or you just heard and some hot chick that you want to bang said it one time, and so it's stuck in there, and you just repeat it constantly. This is also why going within and doing this introspection is great. And Thought Ninja, he brings you shit that perhaps was old beliefs that you don't necessarily subscribe to and are definitely holding you back from moving forward. These open tabs of things, and I
love that open tabs reference. That's I tabbed that.
Jot that, write that down. Yeah. But it's this idea that if you are creating this whole place, and you can say this about reality here, time is super subjective. If you're at work all day, time fucking drags. If you're on the weekend, time flies by. When you're in this vibrational state, or you're at this one resonant frequency, time changes. Every experience is different based on how you perceive it. So this is why Don Miguel Ruiz writes in the 4 Agreements about not taking anything personally. It's got nothing to do with you. You don't know if that person has just had an awesome day and so they're praising you like crazy, or you don't know if they're bitching you out because they got a toy car in their butt or something like that. They're too embarrassed to go to the hospital about. You don't know, and so there's no way of really gauging anyone else's reaction to what you're doing. Now, to this, I would say that this idea, and I've thought a lot about this idea of consensus reality, or that we're all in the same place experiencing the same options, it's not as convincing to me. The more I look into the types of conversations that we're having here, the less I'm convinced that we're all in the same damn place and that actually you're not the only one here at all. And it really feels though, and I wanted to get your take on this, what do you think about the idea that if someone believes heavily, because, you know, like Buddha said, suffering's a choice. If you're suffering, you're suffering, right? You can really feel that. If you're not, you're not, even if you experience the same things, right? So let's say that somebody really thinks that this place that we're on is a ball, and that if they get into a rocket, a ball will render beneath them. But let's say also someone believes that it's flat and expects to go out to an ice shelf, and rendering before them is this expansive, whatever the fuck they think it is. Maybe it's this personal, you know, because even like the contact phenomena and the UFO phenomena is very, very personal to you. Psychedelics, all that good stuff. Everything is so subjective that it makes me think, like just scaled up the idea that maybe we're not all experiencing the same thing, and whatever you truly feel, what your paradigm is what renders before you. So if you think this place is flat, fucking flat, dude, you know?
Yeah.
But also it can exist on, right, you can be sitting on a train or something next to someone that thinks it's a ball, and it is for them, and that is real for them and for their experience. Do you think that it could be that tailored?
Yeah, I do.
That's a long question, wasn't it?
No, that was an excellent question because it hits on so many points, and I think this even ties in with Mandela effect. That's kind of a hot button. Yeah. You know, I've kind of poo-pooed Mandela because ultimately I think that what's really happening is we're taking in the same information differently. And then there are schisms. There are people that remember it one way and remember it the other way, but it's always been one way. But through there's misfires all the time, you know, that make, and I think that we really are, and that's just one example. But more that I don't even want to go too much on the Mandela because that can be its whole thing. I love
it. We're gonna have you back on to do Mandela.
Okay, because it is fascinating, and I love to study each one of them and go, how can we explain this from a different angle?
Before we move on, what's your favorite one? Just say it.
Well, okay, it's named Mandela effect because supposedly he died in prison or something. We're supposed to remember that he died. I don't remember that.
Yeah, Fiona Broome in 2013 after he actually died, after becoming president after the apartheid, said that she remembered him dying in prison in the 80s, and then a fuckload of people came out and said that as well. Now, Fiona Broome will take 0 interviews on the Mandela effect. She's a psychic medium and stuff, and she'll talk about all that, but she won't talk about Mandela at all. She's still kicking about. Anyway, that's what happened with it, and so that's why it's named a Mandela effect, because it was the first one recognized, put on the internet, and someone else said, hey, I experience things differently too. I think this is one of the, and you know, CERN ties into this shit as well. The 2012 is allegedly when this kicked off, right? So please continue. What your favorite one? Just what's your favorite? The one that convinced
Forrest
you.
Gump, the life is like a box of chocolates, or life was like a box of chocolates. Okay, so it's either life is like a box of chocolates or life was like a box of chocolates. And we just go nuts, and people go, okay. So I think this one's very easily explained because his southern drawl, he kind of says both. He goes, life was like a box of chocolates. Now, depending on what your ear picks up, it's the Laurel Yanny. You can hear both. He basically says both. Yeah. Now the script, if you pull the screenplay says one thing, but then the media actually quotes the movie as saying the other. So the screenplay says one and the movie says the other. So there's another, like, I think that's like purposeful. I think that's purposefully done. I think the media actually purposefully misquotes things. And then later we'll have all sorts of disjointed, we'll be like, look, even they disagree. So there has to be multiple timelines. And it's like, no, it's just purposely put in certain outlets reported it as this quote, and certain outlets recorded it as this quote. And depending on how your ear hears the movie, it seems legit either way. Life was like a box of chocolates, or life was like a box of chocolates. That sounds the same. Sounds exactly the same. But if you say it with the Forrest Gump, you know.
His mom says life was like a box of chocolates, which I have heard someone point out and said they say subconsciously that gets put in your mind. And then later, when he does say, which repeats her line exactly from either earlier or later in the movie, maybe it was a flashback. Spoiler alert, she dies. Fucking suck it.
And she had sex with his
she banged everybody.
Principal, right?
Everybody. Yeah, for him, right? Air quotes, for him, yeah.
I don't think that I picked that up on my first go-round of watching that movie, but as an adult, I was like, oh, She banged the principal to get him in school.
Yeah, she banged a lot of people for a lot of things. I think she was ahead of the feminist movement. I think good for her. You know, that's what I say. I say good for her. You know, she was getting it and she was having a good time.
Get him.
But so that's one of the explanations on that, is that it was repeated either earlier or later in the movie. He was then accurately repeating his mom, which is where the was comes from. And I'd love your phonetic breakdown on that, because yes, that's easy. Now, I do dig the idea though that perhaps it's planted this way and there's sort of a psyop. I mean, it's added to the list of global cover-ups that probably is. And so it's an interesting one to even do though, because what this, just working through your idea here, just hearing it the first time, you know, what it would do is just kind of fracture the psyche to where now a certain percentage of people like myself think something fucking awesome's going on here. And that, you know, these timelines are splitting and I'm from a certain one. And, you know, we joke about this. Oh, I'm from the cool timeline where Tom Cruise did have the white t-shirt and the sunglasses, you know what I mean? Not that pink t-shirt bullshit. And but do you think though then, because now in my mind again, even the corporations. You know what I just
immediately thought of?
Go ahead.
Pink on, this is the thing. In Hollywood, there's all these weird camera tricks. When they shot in Technicolor, Dorothy's white and blue dress, it was actually pink and blue, because pink comes up as white on Hollywood camera. So both can be true.
I'll be damned. Well, pink and white striped was it. So it actually had stripe and texture into it.
Oh, he had a white shirt on.
I know.
He had a white shirt on.
And
he had a white shirt on. Okay.
In my
throw that
dimension.
out the window.
So
throw
here's the question then. If you were, you know, because let's say that even down to something like the apocalypse or something, let's say that a group of, I had Micah Dank on, we talked about this a long time ago. If you say that maybe the Bible was written the way that it was because a secret society, let's say, just got together and wrote the damn thing so that it would be played out as this long script over time. Now, if you could then anthropomorphize this to today's, you know, psychological, you know, Bernays type operations or whatever, then you could say that you could plant these seeds of psyops that would fracture the psyche, even at a spiritual level, let's say around the time of a cyclical event that always happens where some sort of enlightenment, some sort of greater understanding is being achieved here. And I want to ask you about that in a minute. And it feels like maybe if they knew that, which obviously they would, from many levels in my mind, and I just have so many fucking things to say right now I want to talk to you about. And then let's say that they can put this in the psyche of everyone by going, all right, Tom, slide in with the glasses and the thing. Okay, cool. Now, do a take two with the pink shirt. All right, cool. We're going to go with that, and then we're going to put two versions of it out, or even clips of it out, and even down to fucking Fruit of a Loom going, yeah, throw the cornucopia in there for a little while, and then we'll remove it, and then when they call, we'll tell them, no, dummy, it's never been like that. We'll go ahead and print two versions of it and just hang on to this one. I mean, and then you have this on a global level to where now it's just this huge mind fuck.
Yeah.
That's fascinating.
It does. Okay, you mentioned CERN earlier. I don't give any credence to CERN. I think it's all just...
It's a distraction. It's a whirlpool. It's a literal
BS.
whirlpool.
They're just spinning. It's literal spin.
Yeah. That's what it feels
like. And what do we
like.
know is spin is like misinformation, spinning the truth.
When they have all those rituals, it draws super weird attention. It's like,
I know, and they have a Shiva, a harbinger of death and destruction, apocalyptic messenger, Shiva, the destroyer.
Well,
they have that outside for a reason, so that we all the human, all the gullible people will look at there and go, oh my God, look, they're trying to destroy us. They've got a symbol out front. Yeah. It kind of reminds me of the Georgia Guidestones, remember? It's like all those were just text on stone. And we're like, oh my God, they're going to kill us all. Look, they've been trying to kill us all forever. See? And it's like, guys, why are we so scared of text?
You know, you may have ruined the whole goddamn thing for me, because now I'm just thinking of every conspiracy as a conspiracy to be a conspiracy, as sort of like an option, like a side quest here. You know what I mean? Sort of like your John Benet Ramsey. It's an option. It's a whirlpool, and you can get stuck down it, and so therefore it manifests, you know, because we're powerful creators if you look at it like this, or at least the game responds to us in a way that may be completely mechanical in nature, and that's fine. But either way, it mimics the same. This is where
Conspiracy Analyzer takes on a whole new level.
It does, because now you're analyzing the fact of conspiracies themselves, like why they exist. And we know psyops exist, and I definitely see things whenever it's popped out in the news that, oh, this Wuhan bat thing, because a certain percentage of actual conspiracy theories will just run the fuck out of that, and they're stuck on that and they move on.
It's a good one. I want to go into the Wuhan stuff.
Definitely. And that is just a side deal. That's a path that you can take. But again, it's sort of like these distractions. And so I think even scaling out just a little bit, you can see the whole thing as a psyop. And especially if you think of these long scale, like You know, it's our hubris and ignorance, I think, that we think that they're just coming up with these things on the spot and being reactionary.
Right.
This is long game shit, dude. Yeah.
Long time. But I don't think time exists on their level.
Yeah.
And so what we understand is time and like, how'd they do that? Okay, this is a recent example. Okay, the Queen died 911 days. 9/11, favorite number. The Queen died 911 days.
That's a very
after
spiritual number.
The coronavirus was announced. And corona means crown.
Oh. Yeah, these are the fun ones. I miss doing this.
I mean.
Yeah.
Okay, so I think that this stuff, it's scripted. It's scripted. That's a good catch-all. It's scripted. Yeah. Scripted. It's pre-drawn out. It's pre-developed. Scripted goes a bit deeper though. Scripted, when you think about a computer script, what is that? It's a line of auto-executing code. That's the key word for script. What's the difference between a script and regular computer mumbo jumbo? Zeros and ones. Well, a script specifically is auto-executing. And so I kind of think that this stuff is just so patterned, like just so designed from the get, and it's just expressing itself over and over and over and over. And that's why these things they seem to tie back. Like this person, the gematria stuff is mind-blowing, but I also think it also reveals just this weird larger pattern that we're not able to see because we're kind of too granular. We're too close. We're too close to it. But then now I think we're kind of seeing it. I think we're seeing like these things, these no coincidences. And there's all that, even like these rap stars that are dying left and right. And they always have all these like really intense gematria. I'm not even saying it right, but like, when people die, and Kobe, I remember everyone picking his apart from like this Jesuit mindset. And it's just like, I just kind of think all these things it's not here and now. It's like it's always been, and these things are just kind of playing out. This is how I think of technology too. Everything we think is like technology now, or even advanced technology, some things that we haven't even seen, I think it's always existed. And it just gets rolled out on this world stage over time. That's why old-timey clocks match the old-timey look of the old-timey times. And old-timey this matched old-timey that, and this era of this matches this era of that. I think and the technology is just exactly was already, and we just get like drips and drabs so that we think that this is how technology progresses. But in reality, it's always existed. And so when we think of facial overlay technology today, I think Hollywood used that with Marilyn Monroe. I don't think Marilyn Monroe actually existed. I think that she was just played by a bass actress, many that looked like her, Jane Mansfield being one of them, basically the same. And then they overlaid through all sorts of technology, which they're like, that didn't exist back then. Yes, it did. It always did. It always did. We just are on this side of it. Like we're on the receiving end.
Yeah. And even this idea of cloning has been around for a super long time. I've talked to a guy named Ben Rosenberg on the show. Awesome dude. And we talked about this idea that it's been around forever. And this way you can find, Greta Thunberg and old pictures next to a wagon. And,
I kind of think those are just pictures that are made today. Like they just put out like, look at this picture of Greta Thunberg in 1812, and it's just like, well, it's just a digital image.
There are a lot of similar people, though, and you can go
that's
woo
true.
an
And I love
NPC.
that. That goes to templates,
Like, oh, God. Well, I've met so many where I'm like, ooh, you remind me of. And it's a lot of things. It's facial structure. It's walk. Yeah. It's a
There's
template.
not that many faces.
Yeah, right.
There's only 7 face shapes. Okay, let's dig into this. I love this one. There's only 7 face shapes across all humanity, across every race. Across we think about how faces are so different. Across every race, across every creed, color, sex, whatever, or all these dividing lines. There's only 7 faces, shapes. And then everything else gets added on like a Mr. Potato Head. Then everything gets configured, and there's more configurations than there are faces, but there's only a set number of configurations as well. But those little configurations create the illusion of individuality and uniqueness.
Variety.
But if you were to look at us from the outside, we would just look like all the same. Okay, this is my favorite comparison. Okay, if you were to get a box of white mice, like lab mice that just look like little mice in there, they would all look the same. Day one, they would all look the same. You'd be like, that's a mice, and that one's mice, and then that one's a mice, and they're all mice, and they just look exactly the same, and they're gross. Well, if you got to know them and spent a lot of time with them and you would begin to understand and comprehend slowly over time, but then quickly and then immediately that, oh, well, that's Larry because he's got the little gimp leg, and oh, that's Sue because her whiskers are really long, and this one, that's Mikey because he's always going after the food. Like and then they would look different. They would all look different because they are. They are in a way, but it's very subtle. But until you have that like familiarity, until you buy into that, I guess you have to. It's a brain training exercise. But until you do that brain training exercise, you simply don't see it. But I think that there's certain, like the facial blindness. People have facial blindness now, and I think that on a spectrum, some of us acutely have facial blindness in a real way. But I think ultimately, sometimes when you have a hyper recognition of this person looks like this person, 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 reminds me of this person. Oh, that reminds, like they don't look alike, but I see it. Like it's the mannerisms. I have a familiar, like I think you're ultimately tapping into this this deeper understanding that we are more similar. Like it's just the arrangement of patterns can throw people off, in a way. Like, I don't know. It's like, it goes both ways. Facial blindness is one. Did you know that learning how to read literacy actually reduces your ability to recognize faces?
I could see that.
It takes up some of that, that hippocampus bandwidth or wherever it exists, they say in the brain. But they say that that's one thing that is diminished as you, with the learning profile of reading. Like it kind of, I don't know. So,
but I bet singing, it's the opposite.
Singing? Oh, I think this place should be a musical.
Well,
I honestly think reality should be a musical.
Because in both ways you're pronouncing speech, and both ways you learn to do it. Because like singers, one of the techniques, you hold your vowels, right? You don't hold out consonants when you're holding a note. It's usually a vowel. Yeah. And so there's little things like that you learn along the way. But I would think within that process, it's so freeing, and because there's a musical component to it, we know the word and all of that. And maybe it's something, really deeply tied into that it has something also to do not only with the speech itself, but the way it's presented. Like I said, in the form of a song, perhaps. Words mean different things. And that's why they say if you repeat, like if you listen to like gangster rap and shit, there's nothing wrong with that. I've got Ludacris all over my playlist. I love Luda. But if you listen to that just like constantly, then perhaps there is a subconscious element that digs down in there, and it's energetic. You've heard Kanye and say what you want about it, but there's something definitely true to what he said about the 808 beat machine being designed to be low frequency and to get you in a certain vibe to receive information in a certain brainwave. So it's just fascinating when we come down to this.
We're musical beings.
Yeah, for sure.
And music, sound affects us the most. And I love to say, like, inside of our ear is a labyrinth. The cochlea, like it's shaped. It is like, I think, as visual of a person I am, I do think that this place is affected by sound the most. Yeah. And our voices, what we say, what we speak, I think that we're using this very, very specific language, and all of these words are strung together to give a certain vibration or a certain meaning that maybe we're not even aware of sometimes. I think there's language is so fascinating to me, but I do think that song is probably the best form of communication. It's the best way of memorizing. I think this place, I don't think we're doing language right. It boggles my mind that it's 2023 almost, and we all speak different languages. Why?
Yeah. I mean, well, and it's interesting too when you take into account also like oral traditions and oral histories, because those aren't necessarily sang, but it is still the voice remembering speech patterns or sound patterns that mimic, that gave the receiver of that information a symbol in their mind.
Early computers ran off audio, like early memory storage devices. The original memory storage device is sound, is tape, magnetic sound on tape. That's the absolute original computer. Early computers ran on sound magnetic tape. The IBM structures, sound magnet. And it's actually still the best. It's actually still the most high fidelity way, because memory, if you deal with media, you're like, these hard drives fail and solid state disks fail, and what's the best, most archival form of, it's just film and tape. Film is light captured on this medium, and the magnetic tape is sound captured, and sound is memory.
And it's interesting, really, you need magnetic tape for sound.
I know. I love magnets. Oh my God. I love magnets. Magnets, sand, and salt are my real, those really get me going.
Well, that's a perfect segue into my next question for you here. So I am looking for the perfect name for a house cat that identifies as a female.
A perfect name for a house cat that identifies as a female. We're talking about an actual feline and not a human that's like a fur. I'm not naming some sort of like furry.
Excellent question. Excellent question. And yes, ma'am, just a standard house cat there from any definition.
Standard house cat. I don't know why, but Magdalene just came to my mind.
Magdalene's cute.
You call her Maggie.
Oh, yeah.
Maggie the house cat.
Maggie for sure. We have a boy named Sam, and that's short for Samurai. He's cool as shit.
Ooh, Samurai.
Now, to my question there, we would have all...
Samurai.
Yeah, Samurai. We would have also accepted, to my question there, Gwyneth Meowtro. As well.
Better one.
An alien drops down in your lap. We don't know what aliens are. Just assume that it's something not of yourself. You get one question. What would that question be?
Okay, so an alien drops in my lap?
Yeah, physically in your lap. And you know that, now think about it, you only got one question. Now the small little alien creature that you expected, perhaps even if you met one, to be a little bit more independent and big, drops in your lap physically. Let's say about 8 inches tall. He can hear you just fine, so you don't need to yell.
I'd say, good news. I'll save you the step. You're already at your leader. You're already here.
That is great.
I don't need to take you anywhere.
Yeah.
Buddy, you couldn't have dropped in a better lap.
Man, are you in luck. You are in luck. That is awesome. I love that.
Boy, have I got news for you.
I lead this planet, and actually, thank you for coming to my rescue. I sent that mission out that you're fulfilling the prophecy to help me overthrow all the lizard turds that are here. Yeah.
I love
help
punctuality, yeah.
Absolutely. You guys are great. I love that. What an awesome answer. I absolutely love that. Love that. Okay, so you've got 3 wishes. I'm very curious. So 3 wishes for you. Any of them come true? And it's kind of a cliche question, but you're a very insightful person, so I'm very curious. And I drug this out of the ridiculous vault to present to you here today because I'm just curious about your insight on it. You got 3 things that can absolutely be yours at the just behest of your intention. So what would those be?
Okay, so wish is a weird word. I just
Desire.
think it's like genie stuff. Yeah. So let's go
this is total gin.
Things I'm working towards. I think that anything you want, you got to work. You got first. You got to imagine it. You got to envision. The vision always has to come first, really. But then you got to work. You got to work towards it. So things that I really wish and would desire to happen. I would love to grow the Realize Radio community audience. That's been it's my passion and my hobby. But I also am putting so much time towards it. I would love for that to be my job. It's not my job. It doesn't, it's, I like that it's also not my job because hobbies are fun. Maybe if it was my job, I'd be like, really, radio. But, right now it's just one of those passions. It's one of those things that you couldn't, not do, like painters paint, writers write. Right now, this is just one of those things that I just really love to do. And I've just been doing it more and more. And we've been growing the community little by little. I mean, Rambo Rambo's my co-host, partner in crime. He's over in the UK. So anyway, I would love to grow that. And I'm working towards that. I don't know when that'll happen, but I believe if you, it's like Field of Dreams style of living. If you build it, they will come. So I'm in the heads down mode.
That's actually not the line, ma'am. Mandela said that it's if you build it, he will come, is the bullshit Mandela line. But I'm from the same dimension you are. And this goddamn PSYOP got us again. How about it?
This is our Field of Dreams, not their Field of Dreams. Got it? Yeah.
Yeah.
I would love to build that. Something that I've wished for a while is to create space to do that. And normie jobs. And, I would love people. I think 2020 was a big eye-opening experience for a lot of people where they questioned what they were doing with their time and their most valuable resource being, their time and energy and attention. And that a lot of it goes towards our work and our career. And do you even like what you do? And I hadn't had a fruitful career path that I've developed. But at a certain point, it's just does it really fulfill me? I don't know. I'm doing this other thing as a hobby, and it really, really fulfills me, and I really love to do it, and I would do it no matter what. So how can I purposefully and meaningfully pivot and put more energy in that direction, and hopefully build something that could be sustainable in this direction. So I've actually, over the past couple of years, really past 3 years, I've like really worked towards that. And this next year, I'm taking, basically, I'm going full-time Realize Radio and full-time HV stuff and full-time into this vein. So I would love to see what that, I've wished for that, and now I'm going to do it. So I'm going to see what happens. I think these all kind of go together too, and then, I want to see the ocean. I want to see the ocean again. I want to live a life where I spend, okay, this is a wish, a desire. I would love to live a life where I am in near constant earshot of the ocean.
Interesting. You born and raised in Texas, ma'am?
No, I've lived in Texas for quite some time. But I grew up overseas. I grew up in Holland and Jakarta, Indonesia, and then I moved to Texas, of all places, when I was in like the 3rd grade. So had a kind of a very cool eye-opening experience as a kid, and then kind of got rooted in a good state, a very good state, I would say. Yeah. And now I'm in Dallas, Texas, 33rd parallel.
Come on. Yep. We'll get you more out west. We'll get you to the real Texas. You can come out here and hang out on the ranch for a little bit and see what that's like.
Okay, that sounds like a real treat. Sounds like you've got a real cool thing going on out there.
We got a great thing going on. Yes, ma'am. And you're welcome to it. Yeah, and you're right down the road. So Whataburger, for everybody that lives outside of Texas, there's this place called Whataburger. It's absolutely phenomenal. When are they going to, when in your mind, is the simulation going to re-render the jalapeno cheddar biscuit for us for our breakfast in the morning? Do you think
I didn't even know they took it away. That shows what a.
I hate to break that news.
Was it a 2020 situation?
I wanted to say it was around for like
took away
years.
my favorite breakfast in 2020.
What?
They're dead to me.
What do they do to you?
Well, okay, if we're going to talk about it, I don't eat fast food anymore. But first, they took away the grilled peppers and onions on their breakfast burrito, and then they just replaced it with hash browns. And it's like, I don't want hash browns on my breakfast burrito. I want grilled peppers and onions, like a human, human being, like a responsible human being.
Somebody who's here to live their life, not throw it away.
I'm trying to thrive.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay, so the first I did that. So then I switched. I pivoted, and I got this bagel sandwich. It was this like a sunflower seed bagel, healthful, with chicken and egg and cheese. And I'm trying to categorize that as healthful. It was quite a snack. It was quite a meal, but I loved it. And then they took that away too.
What's a good start to your day?
And I never went back. I mean, honestly, I never went back.
Yeah, it'll ruin you, right? They gank your shit. As a kid, I used to love Cookie Crisp, the cereal. And then they changed the formula like 15 years ago, and I said, get fucked. It's so different. I don't know if my taste buds changed.
They changed those plastic discs.
Yes, to be fair.
I loved that shiny coating on them,
You're like, oh, cool. I could use this as currency. Nice. I love it.
They were laminated. They were straight up laminated. Those Cookie Crisps.
They were straight up delicious. And I miss the original formula. Bring them back, guys, and I'll visit you again. Okay, one final thing that I want to do a callback on here is I'm going to set you off with one word here, young lady.
Okay.
Wuhan.
Oh, okay. This goes. We talked about energy and emotion and playing on our emotion and what fascinates us. And one thing that really fascinates the human psyche is disgust. Is like these feelings that like, okay, so it all started. I think we bought into this whole idea. I don't believe any of the narrative. Let me just say, I don't think it started in a lab. I don't think it was from a rat. I don't think it was from a bat or a cat.
Do you think it was real?
No.
Okay.
No, I just think it was a cold and flu season.
Yeah.
That they've rebranded so many times.
Isn't that amazing? The perception management that went down with that made that successwoke.
Yeah. It was a campaign beyond our wildest imagination, but it was all fake. And I woke up right before it hit. I woke up in January of 2020 to this like world of fakery. And then come March, they're telling us it's this deadly global virus. People are dropping dead in the streets. And I'm seeing people drop dead in the streets, and all those in the Wuhan. It just never.
Just
happened.
on the bench, and then they just.
Yes, they would just keel over. All I ever saw were videos. Never saw it in my real life, and that kind of reminds me of the whole narrative of today around the. We're not getting into it, but the narrative around the vaccine with everyone keeling over. It's like we're still just seeing it on TV. I'm yet to see the man at the bus station fall over in my real life.
And for the audience, it's about to turn this off because they're like, "Oh my God, it wasn't real, and they weren't real people." And there's so much evidence that gives us so much credence that even school shootings aren't real, and that there was no one involved, and that it's all a huge perception management campaign for everyone. So whenever we chuckle about something that people still believe is correct and real, I would like to just point out to the audience we're not heartless fucks.
I'm sorry, I forget which audience I'm talking about this time.
No, go for it. No. You can speak.
I'm in a bubble. I'm in a bubble too. I'm in a thought bubble. So I will be the first to own that. I'm in a thought bubble, and I forget how just unhinged some of my theories and thoughts can appear to people that are just taking in information normally,
and this is not to censor you, not to point that out. I got intuitively kind of a feeling that some people may sit here and say, "Oh, he's laughing," and I've never felt judgment from the audience. There was just something in me that said, "Hey, say this real quick," just because. Also, sort of for your benefit as a guest as well, that just folks know where you come from. You come from an incredibly high vibrational place. Your name is Human Vibration, for fuck's sake. It's a high vibrational place of high awareness and understanding of the greater concepts that we talk about here on the show, and you're not being introduced to this. This is something you and I have known and talked about for a long time. So whenever we flippantly laugh about it, it's because it's something to flippantly laugh about. And that if you take the emotion out of something that was fake, knowing it was fake, this is why I was called to say it. If you take the emotion out of it, then it becomes what it loses its power, which is what it was meant to be, was something that you kind of call back to. This is why they replay 9/11 every year. They didn't do it last year, which was interesting.
I know. I tweeted about that.
Yeah,
it's lost its effect. Yeah,
exactly. And this is the idea of reinterpreting a memory. So if you are, as an audience member here, coming to a new understanding with any idea that we're talking about here and beyond, then those are choice points for you. And if you, as an individual and a sovereign entity here, choose to follow that down those rabbit holes, then you're going to encounter certain understandings that would have sickened your old self, but now you're ready to be revealed to. And so this is the point in the conversation where you get to this idea, even if I'm emotional about something that was fake, then I'm adding energy to something that didn't exist, and so therefore it keeps it alive. And how you prevent it in the future, especially with your own constitution, and you switch from theorist to analyst, is you say, you know what, I'm going to reinterpret that memory now with new understanding and information. And I'm going to say, not that big a fucking deal, and laugh about it because it was so silly. Like the kid in the dad, that starts laughing right before he goes on, and then fakes tears right before he goes on to talk about his kid that was just shot. So there is a plethora of shit. And
Robbie
at a
Parker.
Level, you and I fucking know that this really gets to people. Like, my mom takes this shit seriously. Yeah. And it bothers me that they're able to fuck with my mom and my friends and shit like this. You know what I mean?
My grandma. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, G-Ma's not having it. She's super involved in this.
She just watches these murder shows, 48 hours, all these, like, she's into it. But they get their mind. They get their mind. This stuff is like, murder podcasts are the most popular podcasts for women. Like, we love to hear about people being murdered. Yeah. It's a very strange phenomenon. But okay, and I appreciate that you're aware of your audience to help protect me too. Like, give me a reminder. Okay, so when I say the disgust element of the Wuhan, the story was this is kind of an HIV thing. Okay, because they introduced the whole thing as it happened in the wet markets, and these things are gross, and they came from a dirty bat, and someone ate a bat, and then that bat transferred its dirty bat disease onto this human, and then it spread like wildfire. And we were like, okay, first of all, a wet market? Like, what? Like, what? Like, gross. And they were showing these pictures, like, so we were like, that just looks disgusting. I am not surprised at all that something came from there. I'm not surprised at all. And so we just believed it hook, line, and sinker, because they used the best way in are these feelings of disgust, shame, deep like hatred and anger. That's why these, like, anyway, okay. So they got us with the disgust because we were just like, ew, gross. I'm not surprised. Same thing with HIV being from a monkey.
Well, and HIV being from a monkey that then was transmitted by somebody who banged it, that then transmitted it through gay sex, specifically gay sex. And so do you think...
Another vector of disgust. Right, and shame. That's the shame vector. And not that anybody should be shameful, but guys, in the 80s, it was shameful.
I think
like subculture shame. I think what was happening was they took the subgroup of risky behaviors that were happening in the gay culture. There was a lot of just, very dangerous drug use that was happening. There was a lot of compromised immune systems already. Let's say that. There was just this subset of, specifically in New York City. We're talking about everything happens in New York City. If it happens in New York City, it happens in the world. Because the eyes are literally on New York City. So they took this very small microcosm thing that was happening in New York City and gave it a nebulous name, called it a virus, when it was really just like a consequence of behavior at the time, of common behavior, mostly with intravenous drug use, because you can get ill from these types of things, and the immune system can be quite compromised from these types of things and certain behaviors. And so anyway, so they were able to capitalize on this, and then they were able to give it a name, and then they were able to give it a shame and disgust vector around it. They were able to broadcast it wide. People began to, I think people began to get diagnosed with HIV when they didn't have anything. So I don't think viruses exist. They were able to, okay, this was about the Wuhan. I don't think viruses exist. I think it's our all of this kind of goes together. And Anthony Fauci was the AIDS guy. Anthony Fauci is the COVID guy.
And the
he
ACT,
was Mr. AIDS.
The ACT he was pushing killed more people than actual AIDS. The drug he pushed, which again, and then he wraps back around for this cycle of it as well. Ruined the immune systems. Just like chemotherapy weirdly ruins the immune, just obliterates the human immune system. It's like this? They know. Well, they know that you can heal yourself and recover from anything, and so they'll weaken you so much and weaken your and fatigue you mentally so much and bombard you with all this perception management that this is your inevitability. That's like these death sentences these doctors get. You get 6 months, and then they're like, "Fuck you," and they live for 32 years. And they believe it. That's like, I think there's certain cultures that don't tell elderly, like if there's a cancer diagnosis, like the doctor would never say it to the I think patient. It's awesome because number one, you're going to scare the shit out of them. Number two, what can you do? But go to a hospital, have chemo as your best shot. And of course, people are going to take that because they're clinging to life. And this is what's so fucked up is that they get it at such a deep fucking level. And you as a family member will do anything to keep your family member alive. And you will stick around for your kids and do anything. Even poisoning yourself to death. That
preys on the vulnerable too. Like this whole micro market, not even micro, like a macro market of like of alternative cancer care. And in a way, it's like so much of it is snake oil salesman. I think because we're not even ever thinking about what cancer is properly. Right. I think that, and not that I know, I'm not a doctor, but I do think that it has so much more to do with what's going on up here.
Yes.
In our minds that manifests in the body. I like to say, this isn't my quote, but I love to repeat it because it's perfect. Dis-ease, a lack of ease, dis-ease in the mind manifests as disease. Same word, disease in the body.
Yep.
It's like, oh.
I love it.
And I think the cold and flu season is just a natural part. When we get sick collectively, we call, it's contagious.
Yes.
But I like to see it as, in the fall, when all the trees drop their leaves, maybe one tree starts, one tree's a little early, that tree didn't give the other ones this falling off disease. It's just a natural part of a cycle of a living organism to have this like expression cycle. And I think the flu, if you think about a chimney, what is the flu? It's a way for this coal burning, heat burning machine, which is what we are. We're heat burning coal machines, carbon based heat machines at a 98%. We're just constantly burning. We have a flu. We literally have a time where we expel our toxins. And I think that is just a very natural. Getting sick is, if you don't ever get sick, that's great. But if you do get sick and you can bounce back, that's just a test and a proof that your immune system is doing exactly what it should. We shouldn't be like, oh no, I'm sick. It's awful. But now if you're always sick, something's going on. Yeah. Something is going on. But I think that there's a reason that there's cold and flu season. There always has been.
100%.
And then during the corona, the flu went away.
Isn't that amazing? 6 flu deaths, 6 of them. But the same number scaled up at a little bit higher of a percentage, I think because of the cytokine storm of people getting all the shit scared out of them.
Numbers game.
And it exactly mirrored what it would have been had
shell
flu.
game. Yes. It's like,
100%,
Oh my
dude.
God.
100%. It's so silly. It's so fucking silly.
Okay. Why do they do this? Why lockdown? Why all that stuff? Like, I do think that ultimately we're not supposed to know how powerful we are. We're not supposed to know how powerful our energy and attention and the most precious resource on the planet, our focus, our focused attention and energy. They call, energy is measured, heat energy, which is what we produce, is measured in joules. Joules. Spelled differently, but it's still like a crown jewel, like a jewel. Like it's a precious resource, a jewel, a gem. Our energy.
Do you think, though, because again, if I scale this up, and I don't disagree with you that there's levels to view this place, and this, what we're talking about perception, that's the whole thing about the show. We just question, we just want critical thinkers, like George Carlin says in the intro here, just a nation of critical thinkers. Let's go for it.
Oh, I love
and
that,
you do this by questioning your reality, right? And so whenever you look at this at that level, of course, there are these dualistic forces here. And I think that this, at a subscale here, energetically, if you want to say, you're here to learn how to navigate duality and walk that middle path, right? And you're given the options of these whirlpools of either perspective that you can go way far into the like sex cult and go crazy with all this love and stuff, but probably not a good idea full time. And then you can go crazy down the dark lizard turd path and you can get into some real shit storms, but perhaps there's a middle balance, and maybe that middle path is what we're here to kind of achieve. And so whenever we say that, like, we experience something as shit and it sucks at a level, like, I'll zoom out one more, because again, I kind of look at this as a play. Had a guy named Pat Mahan, another dude you've got to have on your show, Pat Mahan. He runs a show called Like Attracts Like. I'll connect you. Don't worry about it. Okay. So he talks about this, and, one way to view this world, like the Matrix, these are, Westworld, these analogies that we use to kind of say, okay, there's a thing here that if you look at it like it was real and you put yourself in those shoes, then maybe this is what is going on here, perhaps. And one of the ideas is this idea that this is a play, and even there's some spiritual teachings that talk about this. And basically, it's a play to play out here these dualistic forces, and that's what they are, so that your joules, your energy, can be committed to something in either fashion. And you learn all the time. And that's why, like you talked about earlier, time's not a real thing perhaps in another place, but it is here, our perception of it rather, because time, allows you the sense of over duration is how you get change, right? And so when you mix this cocktail, in my mind, at a zoomed out level, of these dualistic forces where you're an entity that it's experiencing time so that you can, at a rate of duration, experience change and growth perhaps, then you're given these options, and that's like the car wash that you go through to experience that. Now, at that level, whenever you talk about these lizard turds and stuff like that, Pat Mahan's quote was, at the end of a play, the hero and the villain go out and bow together. They were in this together like the whole time. And to the Matrix, what we talked about being it being a great analogy for folks, is one of the scenes that I quote all the time in reference to this is the Mr. Smith part when he's with Morpheus, and he takes his earpiece out and he's got him all tied up and he's screaming at the dude, hey, just give me the Coast of fucking Zion so I can get out of here. I hate this place. So they want the same thing. It just seems like we're all motivated in different ways. And so it manifests in different ways for us to be motivated in the ways we all independently need to get our shit together, take all of our shit, put it in a bag, get it together, and it has to be facilitated this way. And so that's why I see all these things ramping up, and they're like, look, the elevator's going up, and we're going through this grate that you are way too thick. You need to shed some shit before you squeeze through that thing, or it's not going to happen. And they're just like punching you through this thing, and it's violent. It's you can look at this with cymatics as well. Going from one pattern to another, it's very chaotic until that next single tone solidifies the pattern that's created.
It's exactly.
Exactly. So you get into this wild idea that they are here for our benefit. And so it then goes to this haunted house idea, to where it's not dire, it's not dangerous, it's only what you manifest it to be. And I don't know, I think it's wild and crazy. And that this is a very interesting place.
I love it. I love the haunted house analogy as well. I came to that, when I was talking with Les Luthor about, and he's a wonderful one to have on, talk about expanding your reality, about the war. And he was actually he went there. He went to see what was going on in Ukraine at the very beginning of the war. And it seemed like a movie. It's just backstage, seemed like a movie set. And at one of our, at one of our conversations, we kind of came to the same conclusion that war ultimately is essentially a haunted house that you don't realize it's a haunted house. There's when we experience a haunted house, it's fun and thrilling because we're aware that there's no true risk of death. But if that was removed, if that awareness and knowledge was removed, it would feel quite dire. And I think that that's what's happening essentially I have a theory about all war, full stop, all war being seemingly quite harrowing, but in reality, being essentially a battle stage. But the real battlefield's up here in our mind always. Anyway, so we kind of got into it with that. So I can really comprehend that it's perfect. And we all can visualize ourselves. You know, what if you didn't know it was a haunted house? You'd be terrified at that guy with the chainsaw.
Yeah. Even though you know it's a haunted house, some people piss themselves.
Sometimes you are. I mean, yes. That's a very common theme. Even when we know. I just don't do them. They creep me out more than scare. It's an ick factor for me. I don't like that.
I think it's the smell.
All the adrenaline.
Yeah, scared farts. You know what I mean?
Ooh, it's the adrenaline has a smell.
Yeah.
It's sour. It's metallic.
Mm-hmm. Well, it's like a locker room. It's like
smelling a battery.
Yeah, or a locker room. Do you play sports in school?
Yeah,
okay.
I know the funk of a locker room.
Yeah, it's that energy, right?
Nothing. Okay, girls' locker rooms are nothing like boys' locker rooms, though. I don't know what y'all beasts are made out of. Gross. Oh my God, disgusting.
All kinds of dope shit, and
ours smell like cotton candy. They smell like lip gloss. They smell like cupcake. You know, ours are. We sparkle. We don't sweat, but boys, you guys are nasty trash bags of blood.
And we own the shit out of it. We love it. Absolutely. All right, one final question for you here. Your fridge back there, does the right door have a little trigger on it that opens a secondary door to where the entire thing doesn't open up, but it just reveals the shelving there?
They both open out. They both.
Right. But is there a little trigger on the right door specifically that will enable?
Do I have the same fridge as you?
We have the same fucking fridge right there. That's crazy. All right. And on that synchronistic note, Human Vibration, this has been a fucking honor. Of course, you're going to come back 1,000 million times, and
I would love
we've got to get you out.
This was a great combo. Whoa, you talk about time flies. You know, we just got going. we just got started. Oh, how fun! I love it. How wonderful. Thank you so much for having me on, Brandon.
Yeah, no worries. Stick around real quick. I got a quick question for you, but thank you so much. All the ways, of course, guys, to find her located down in the show notes. Make sure you check it out. Become part of the Vibe Tribe like I am. It's just wonderful, incredible young woman and incredible spirit here hanging out with us. So thank you again, HV. We will have to do it again.
My pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Just want to thank her for coming over and hanging out. She's totally coming over for our barbecue later on. We're super excited that we just live down the street from her. Human Vibration and all the ways to find everything she does is going to be located down in the show notes. Make sure you'll check out her Instagram and Twitter and Patreon so that you can become part of the Vibe Tribe and kick ass and be the glitch in the matrix you want to see here. So thanks again, HV, for coming by. This was amazing, and we will definitely do it again. Down in the show notes as well, guys, check out our resource links. You've got Food Forest Abundance. Get that freedom from fear on. Why are we still living in fear when you got Food Forest Abundance links down there? Go check that out. Opus, the Organization for Paranormal Understanding and Support, there for all of your paranormal needs. As well, if you'd like to start your own podcast, highly recommend you go with Red Circle. That's who we partnered through. There is a link down there that reads, start your own podcast. Made it as obvious as I could for you there, and that's a wonderful way to get started. Also, if you are ready to get started on expanding your life and launching into the next grandest version of you, check the link, The Manifestor's Guide. Dewey Taylor has a special scholarship offer just for you, the listener of this show, and he will also sweeten the deal if you type Expanding Reality, all caps, no spaces at checkout. While you guys are down there in them show notes, check out expandingrealitypodcast.com. That is our mothership. That's where everything's at. That's how you link to all of these socials, and that's how you get to the store, and you can see the new shirts. Check out the damn new shirts, Lizard Turds, and of course, Thought Ninja. More on the way, guys. The store's totally changing. Just go give it a gander, if nothing else, and you can find all that on expandingrealitypodcast.com. Also, that is where you can sign up to become an expansive insider, and that is a wonderful way to support your favorite show. There's bonus content going on over there like crazy. We're having a good time. Like I said, a great way to participate in value exchange. Now, if you would like to, let's say, participate in value exchange because you understand at the level you're at now, that is what is needed moving forward for all of us to break out of this nonsense matrix and to really create the reality that we want to see here, click the link in the show notes titled Support the Mission, and that is a wonderful way to be a participatory agent of awesomeness in this matrix and really shatter all reality with just your simple gesture and attention for things to be better here. That's how you do it. All right, so go out into this incredibly cool place, guys, Matrix or not, whatever the fuck this thing is, and y'all pick up a piece of litter. Of course, be nice to everybody that you come across. Buy somebody in line around you a coffee or a meal. Something super small goes a real long way. Also, while you're just crushing it at life in general, get out of the fucking left-hand lane if you've got somebody behind you wanting to pass. I understand not everybody knows this, but we're here doing God's work, so get out of the left-hand lane. All right, go out into this beautiful place beyond anything else, guys, and y'all just be good to one another. Thank y'all so much. See you next time.
At Sleep Outfitters Outlet, great sleep is a big deal. Save 40 to 60% every day on every Sealy, Stearns & Foster, and Tempur-Pedic. Queens as low as $249. Customer exchanges, closeouts, and floor samples. Inventory changes daily, so come in for your dream deal today. With no credit-needed financing, expert advice, and up to 60% off retail, it's never been easier to get the sleep and savings you deserve. Go to sleepoutfittersoutlet.com for financing details and to find a store near you.
For the ones who get it done, the most important part is the one you need now. And the best partner is the one who can deliver. That's why millions of maintenance and repair pros trust Grainger, because we have professional-grade supplies for every industry, even hard-to-find products. And we have same-day pickup and next-day delivery on most orders. But most importantly, we have an unwavering commitment to help keep you up and running. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.